This isn't me telling you how to practice. This is me giving you suggestions, and a start point. Where you take it is completely up to you.
Okay, guys. We're going to go over spell parts, spell components. And when I say that, I'm not talking about Eye of Newt, toe of giraffe or whatever have you. We're talking about the different things that you can include in a spell to actually compose a spell. Back when I was actually running my own coven, I called this Basics to Magic Principles. So, the first thing that we're going to go over is probably the most basic for pagans, Wiccans, and pretty much anyone else that practices any type of magic theory or spell work at all, and that is like makes like. The concept behind like makes like is you are doing something in the world to bring about similar effects. So, for instance, carrying a gold coin to attract prosperity. Now, this was like medieval, what have you. A more modern concept of that is carrying a $10 bill or carrying a $100 bill in your wallet to attract more of that money. Old wives' tale was, never walk out of the house with an empty wallet. So that's the concept behind that. Poppets or voodoo dolls. You're taking a physical representation of a person, and you are doing things to that you want to happen to that person. Now, I know a lot of people are going to freak out because, oh my god, voodoo dolls are bad. Not always. So you can take a poppet or you can take a voodoo doll, and you can write symbols of health, wellness, prosperity, fertility. Again, what you do to the doll is supposed to happen in real life. So if you take a doll and fashion it in the image form of a woman who's having problems bearing children and give it a small waxen or whatever material you're using child and put it in its arms, that's not a bad thing. You put a coin in its hand. You can do a lot of things with these poppets or voodoo dolls that actually bring about good instead of bad. Now, side note, just for your own mental acuity, be careful with them. If you have a representation of a person, you don't want to drop it on the floor. You don't want to knock it off the table. Those are all, harm, and you don't want to, in your own mind, or through your magical works, bring about harm to that person. So I generally stay away from poppets and voodoo dolls. I recommend for most people to do the same thing, simply because accidental can affect your intention. But it isn't a good example of like makes like. Another one is a business hanging their first $1, $10, $100 bill on the wall. You do that so you attract more of that money coming in, attract more of those customers, what have you. Or, the way that a witch uses broom during Beltane. A little bit of history. Witches used to, during Beltane, take a broom, which obviously is a phallic symbol, and put it between their legs, go out in the fields and jump as high as they want the crops to go. That's not... It dispels a lot of, witches fly around on brooms. But it's an example of like makes like. You're doing something in the world to show or try and bring about the effect in a different way. Energy transfer. That's probably a bad way of putting that. Basically what you're doing is you're taking the energy of something, whether it be herbs, gems, colors, and you're using that in your spell. So for instance, the oil, you're anointing a candle with oil. You're taking the energy from that plant, the aroma, the energy itself, and you are spreading it across the candle to get that candle to perform a specific function. Burning incense, same concept. Aromatherapy, putting herbs in a mojo bag. Giving a rose on a date. I mean, if it's a red rose, obviously red is for love. Rose is a flower of intention. You're showing them your intention of love. Very simple spell, by the way. Gems and metals. Using salt to cleanse. Because you're using the natural abilities of that gem to cleanse something. Carrying a tiger's eye to dispel negative energy. Using a quartz tip on a wand. Again, you're using the natural abilities of that gem in your spell work, in your practices. Wearing silver jewelry to bestow the goddess's knowledge. To be honest, most priestesses, especially if you look at traditional, Gardenian or what have you, the joke is, the longer you become a priestess, the more buckles you get, the more jewelry that you get, the harder it is to walk. So, you make the circles smaller so that way you don't have to walk as far. Colors, same concept, red, love, yellow, protection. And you can use this in many, many ways. Certain colored robe for certain ceremonies or spells. Certain colored candle, green for prosperity, red for passion, so on and so forth. When you use certain cord colors for cord magic, green, once again, green prosperity is probably one of the ones I use the most. And mojo bags, I mean, you can make them out of colored cloth, same principle. Another way to use colors is by reading auras. Those that do energy healing, those that do energy readings are very familiar with this. But, charging stones with herbs, you can use your aura for things as well. I mean, when you're charging a stone, you're holding it in your hand with your intention. That's what you're doing. You're imbuing it with energy that's your aura. The energy that surrounds your body. People use their auras to cleanse and heal others, aura projection, wish magic, thought forms, and visualization. Elemental magics. So this is basically using any type of element and its properties in your spell work. So, for instance, if you are using salt to cleanse, if you are using running water to cleanse, if you're burying something to cleanse, I mean, you can pretty much use each element in some way, shape, or form to cleanse, to revitalize, and that is a type of elemental magic. Energy siphoning. So the concept of what you're doing is you are pulling energy out of something into something. For instance, one of the South American, or Mexico, because it's not actually South American, traditions is to use an egg to draw out negativity out of a person. So you're technically, the concept is you're using an empty vessel to draw out the negativity, and then you break the egg. And if I remember correctly, because I'm not a practitioner of Santeria or Bruja, or I probably just massacred those pronunciations, but if you break it open and you see blood on the egg, there was something wrong. They just pulled something out of you. One thing that my ex used to do, who was Mexican, was not only would she use the egg and draw out the negativity and the impurities from you, she would then break it into a cup of water, and then put toothpicks and the sign of a cross over it because it's Christian. And then she might put it under the bed to continue pulling that negativity and that out of you. something that's a little bit more common for pagans is we may use onyx or one of those stones that pulls in and traps energy to hold it around, put it around her neck, or use it to cleanse someone or something along those lines to stop negative energy or draw out negative energy from us. Animal work. Using animal totems, basically wearing a lion pendant to improve in courage, using animal familiars to keep an eye on loved ones. One of my favorite ones is someone's like, well, I've never done that. I'm like, have you ever left the house and told your dog to take care of your family? Well, yeah, then you've done it. Choosing an ant as your animal totem. Now, that's not funny, because an ant means strength and teamwork. So that is a valid animal totem. Symbols. Okay, so symbols, we do it all the time, every day. Christians wear their crosses, we wear pentacles, or Thor's hammer, or lightning bolts, or what have you. Some of them are for protection, some of them are for luck, some of them are for prosperity, some of them, we use them to bring about something. Even if it's, some Christians will wear a cross just to remind them of their God. And that's fine. But you're still using that symbol to produce an effect. Most common uses of them are protection, wearing a cross, wearing a pentacle. Pretty much every religion has their symbol that they use. Divination, such as runes, bones, things along those lines. And to be honest, I'm just going to say all others, because there are so many uses for symbols that it's really, really hard for me to get into all of them. I have a wood-burn pentacle that I made that hangs above my the front door of my house for protection, prosperity, so on and so forth. I have a ring with the Norse symbol for safe travels on my motorcycle, on the rear view mirror of my motorcycle, because obviously I don't want to get into another motorcycle wreck. Another good one is motorcyclists will put bells, they're called Gremlin Bells, on their bike somewhere to scare away the gremlins. What do you think that is? Just many, many different examples. Now, one thing I will say is I don't recommend being a jerk. If someone's like, oh my god, you do spells, this and that, you can look at them and say, well, when you're doing this, that, or the other, you're doing the same thing. You can. Just like I can look at a Christian and destroy their little world by going, that's great, you celebrate Christmas. Why are you bringing a tree in your house? Why are you putting a star on top of the tree? Why are you giving presents? Why isn't this even on your God's birthday? There's no point in it. It doesn't help. We can go around. We can tell everybody the things that they're doing that are actually pagan. But there's no real need. So sounds is the next one. Sounds is, mantras, drumming, songs. Those are some of probably the most ancient ways of raising energy, of a specific type to use for your magical works. So, pretty much every tribe, every religion out there has some type of drumming associated with them. You've got the Asians, people from Asian countries, I believe it's mainly specifically Japan, have these giant drums that they'll beat on and just raise so much energy. It's phenomenal. You've got chants. You've got, the guy saying, the stereotypical guy sitting with his legs crossed saying Om and stuff like that. But it works. These things work to help you raise energy, to help you focus energy. Some sounds don't even focus energy, they help you ground. So if you've heard those singing bowls, there are certain chimes that you can use, are excellent to help you just calm, center, and ground. Physical is the next one. Physical, work. This can go from everything from rain dances and transient shaking or what have you, maypole dancing, down to sex, to be honest. The whole premise behind sex magic is literally raising all of that energy during that act and focusing it at a very specific goal. I'm not really going to get into that type of magic right now. I may do so later, but all of these are very good examples of how to raise energy and how to be able to focus them towards your specific goal. Another good one to kind of get into is components can be reusable tools. Now, when I say that, some pagans some practitioners in general are their ritual tools mean certain things to them. Not only that, but when you get into the use of rattles, the Native Americans had rattles, Buddhists had prayer beads, cords for cord magic, are athames, pagan Wiccan athames. Christians, if you ever watch a Catholic Mass, they've got their chalices, they've got their robes, they're very ceremonial. And those things can be used towards your goal in magic work. Athame, you're separating energies out from something else, or you're using a wand to imbue energies into something. All of these, even though we don't really think of it as a component of our spell, it can very much be that. Others, other stuff that I'm going to include here, even though I don't necessarily recommend using them, but they are used in other traditions, just so for the education fact. But again, disclaimer, not all of these things do I recommend using. So the first one is a sacrifice. So certain religions do believe in sacrificing something to their gods or spirits or what have you to obtain favor, to be able to do certain things. Generally, it's to obtain favor. Some practitioners will use their own blood. Some of them will sacrifice animals. Some of them will use the blood from a sacrifice for certain things. Again, Wiccans, pagans do not sacrifice, but other traditions do. Mind alteration. So the premise is pretty simple. You are using drugs, black lights, hypnosis, basically changing your environment, changing your mind to get to a certain goal. A lot of times it's obviously communing with spirits or expanding your mind, being able to see the future, what have you. I'll be honest, I can't get real far into that because I don't practice it. I just know of it and know how some of it works. Another one, really, really old, really don't recommend it, is just the manipulation of entities. Some of the old tales, whether or not they're 100% true or not, is that some Christians would summon demons and compel them in the name of God, or threaten them with punishment or something along those lines for them to terrorize and do horrible things to their enemies, or tell them secrets or something weird. So, you've got, like I said, raising demons. Voodoo priests, if I remember correctly, and if I don't, just tell me in the comments, and I do apologize. But voodoo priests can raise, like, ethereal familiars. They deal a lot with communing with gods and spirits and stuff like that. Also, on a different note, not voodoo priests, but on a different note, dealing with the spirits of the dead is another way to do that as well. So, some of the more common ones, giving gifts to entities. It's sort of similar to the previous one, but you're not actually sacrificing anything or trying to manipulate them. You're just, here you go. Giving money, giving food. I mean, pre-Christian history is full of, not pre-Christian, but pre-Jesus Christianity, or if you wish, Jewish, even though the Jewish culture back then and now are completely different. We're very big on I'm going to sacrifice this thing, but it's not a person or an animal, so it's not really a sacrifice. You're just giving this. A good example of this is leaving out sugar water for fairies. I'll be honest, some people work very well with fairies, and that's part of their religion and belief. I personally don't, because I like being able to find my stuff when I need it. So, for instance, I don't want to have to search around the house every day looking for my keys because the fairies think it's funny. But you be you. You enjoy, you do what makes you happy. Kind of a more lame example is like leaving out milk and cookies for Santa, I guess. Sharing cakes and ale for the god and goddess. When my coven would do cakes and ale, we would, each take some and leave some for the god and goddess that we would give out to nature. A lot of times that would include crumbling up and letting the birds and animals have it. But that is something that we did, so that we were offering it to them and they were taking part in our ritual. Prayer. Just asking for what you want can be pretty effective, to be honest. A lot of these things are above and beyond prayer, but there's still prayer involved in them. Portals is probably maybe a bad way of putting this, but things like Ouija boards, communicating not directly with the spirit, but with another entity, spirit, daemon, using some type of device or something, and creating a doorway of sorts so that way they can come through. Again, depending on what you practice, this may be part of it. And depending on what you practice, you might be looking at this going, no. Which I am part of that. I don't deal with Ouija boards. I don't want to... I don't deal with spirits or things like that. But, again, some traditions do. Another one, which is... some people consider it part of magic, some people do not. But I kind of do, because it is something that you can use to focus energy, to help you focus, to help you concentrate and keep centered. and that is just images. Having a physical representation of something. So, I mean, whether that be your image of the god and goddess, whether that be, your affirmation, if you will. I'm going on a diet and I am going to fit into these pants. Okay, that's something that you're using to help you achieve your goal. If you're trying to buy this specific car and you're saving up the money for this specific car, print out a picture of the car. Put it on the wall of your office or your cubicle. That's what I have, is a cubicle. And focus that. Have that on your wall at home. You go to reach for your phone to call off that day, and you kind of look at that picture and it's like, no, I'm going to go ahead and go in. Because that's what you're focusing on. That's what you're working towards. Same thing can be done with magic. If you're dancing or you're doing sex magic or what have you, a lot of times, part of that spell is to have an image of what it is you're trying to achieve and focus all of that energy that you are producing, raising towards that goal. Have something tangible to look at, to see, not just something in your mind, which, I mean, for those that are great visualization, that's wonderful. But at the same time, some people need that concrete thing. And that's where images and pictures and stuff like that can come in. So that's my... Again, I have a hard time saying, spell components. But those are kind of the primary classifications of different types of magic that you can use in a spell. Just to let you know, you can combine these as well. I mean, most of us do in pretty much most of the spells that we do. You'll have your incense burning, you'll have your poppet or your mojo bag or what have you, your candles, and you can make your spell as complicated or simple as you're comfortable with. So I once did a healing spell where it involved incense, candles, a glass of water, physical reaction, energy work, verbal reaction. I set up the entire ceremony with the incense and the candles on the altar. I cleansed her with salt water and healing oils. I had her hold a glass of water and focus all of her negativity, all of her anger, everything that she felt was making her sick into that water. Had her take the glass of water and chuck it over the fence, getting it away from her. And then, she took a shower and, to cleanse herself even further. You can make a spell as complicated or simple as you are comfortable with. I mean, you don't want to make it so complicated that you're no longer focusing on what you're trying to do and the point of the spell. But at the same time, if you're one of those people like myself, that the more that you have in the spell to punctuate what you're doing, that it helps you and your energy focus even further, then make it as complicated as you want. If you're one of those people that's like, that will, just in your own mind, you will get lost in all of that, and you just want to be able to light a candle, light some incense, and hold this, and use a gemstone, then do that. Do what works for you. But these are just the components that you can use for a spell, and maybe some of which you didn't understand how they worked, or you were curious about, and hopefully I shed a little bit of light on that for you. Once again, I am the normal Wiccan, and you have a wonderful afternoon. And I hope what I just gave you helps you out in the long run. Bye.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget, if you liked the video, like and subscribe. Also, you can donate to my Patreon. All Patreon donations will go towards delivering you new and more interesting content. One last thing, if you had any questions about the content of this video, do not forget to ask those questions in the comments. I will do my absolute best to get back to you in a timely manner, and you, as always, have a great day and blessed be.